All right, everyone. I was getting harassed by my friend Topher about making content again, but like a good starter as an ENTP, I start things and have a hard time staying interested in it because we're kind of like squirrels. And making YouTube videos isn't always so fun. I have ideas running through my head all the time, but all of the different YouTube things that do you ever get promotion or what people expect out of YouTube is typically speaking like TV quality stuff. And so I do need to get a better microphone, but I don't want to. I should get a custom camera, but I'm just using my laptop one, but I don't really want to. I don't really care that much. I don't want to be some star, and so I don't agree with just investing a bunch of money and stuff. I mean, I really was doing this out of feeling guilty over um, helping and people get out of Jehovah's Witnesses and things like that. And so that's just kind of how that is. I mean, I have ideas all the time, and then a lot of stuff I comes through as a YouTuber. You have a lot of people that like, I don't know, they try to antagonize you and say a bunch of stupid shit, and I just don't like dealing with the drama. I don't need it, you know. And so that's just the issue with that. And so no, I'm going to keep making content. It's just I I'm not going to be like these people that are like, I mean, you've never seen me, you know, beg for money or anything like that. I have no intention of doing Patreon thing, like, oh, I need money, you know, it's just weird to me. Uh, I think doing like live views and people give you tips or whatever, that seems to be legitimate, but the whole pandering and Patreon thing is not something I want to get involved in. Uh, that being said, I had a couple of topics I want to talk to. I actually watched this documentary about 2 years ago. Not 2 years ago, I'm sorry, 2 weeks ago, and it's called The Planet of the Humans. It's a Michael Moore film, believe it or not. And my boyfriend is a Bernie bro, and so I am kind of in a split. I'm a libertarian myself, and most of what he believes is we kind of believe in the same things, but we have different ways of wanting to get there. You know, obviously we both have issues with Wall Street, both have issues with corporations, both have issues with this fake fascism that runs the government now, at least in the United States and most of Western world. You have literally just control over big bankers. I get more into what most people in the mainstream consider more conspiratorial. He's kind of more into what I would consider lamestream and just surface issues, and his solutions, in my opinion, are very surface. That being said, he cares a lot about different things, and I don't hold that against people in this case. But with this documentary of Michael Moore's, I generally can't stand the guy. I hate people that bash capitalism all day long, who are fat asses, obese, you know, people who literally are consuming more food than they need on a regular basis that only capitalism can provide, because this is kind of a new anomaly and a new creation is obesity. Outside of royalty, you know, it did not exist until capitalism and the industrial revolutionary, you know, created all this massive amounts of food for people to eat. Now, granted, in his defense, science also created MSG and other artificial chemicals that made it go this way. But I'm on a side tangent. What I liked about the documentary, and it's getting attacked by the left a lot because they obviously have huge incentives and huge interests in the environmental movement. And if people think they're literally pushing global warming and climate change this hard because there's no financial incentives, you need to get the hell outside of rock because you're completely delusional. Okay, of course there's money in environmentalism, of course there's money in climate change, of course there's money in this kind of stuff. People change, there's insider trader, you get rid of coal, but then you invest in other power sources, then you get money from that. And so there's a big battle and war over energy, because energy is life. Life cannot exist without energy. Whether this be as simple as burning fire at a camp, fire to cook your hunted meat, you know, we're talking Stone Age times, you know, it doesn't matter. In this case, it really was pointing out the hypocrisy that that the left has, the fake left, I should say, the neolibs, really, you know, like the Obamas, the Clintons, you know, the neolib area. Those aren't real liberals, you know, like Bernie Sanders, for instance, is more of a real liberal, a real socialist. You know, Obama is a corporate dim, and so is the Clintons a corporate dim. You know, Kerry, corporate dim. These guys are all corporate dims. They're friends. The Republican Party, no different. You know, the exact same thing. And so what the Michael Moore documentary really pointed out the hypocrisy in this kind of thing. And I figured this out at a very young age because ENTPs, typically speaking, are very progressive in their younger age. And we kind of lean that way because of FE Child. Effie Child is very optimistic how we feel about other people. So our hearts go out to help others in any way we can. And so when I was very young, I really got into veganism. I was involved in environmentalism, but I was getting involved in all these groups and things like that, having conversations. And I realized most of it was just about virtue signaling. Most vegans and vegetarians were completely fake. And so they would sit there and want to grandstand and talk about how they care about animals, and everyone else is an evil person because they eat meat. But meanwhile, they had like their Coach bag and their leather purse that was made from children, you know. And so when I was vegan, I was pretty hardcore about these kind of things, and that's just how it was. And like, I didn't wear leather, I didn't wear wool when I was vegan and all my stuff was cruelty free. And so like when I was really hardcore about this kind of things, that's what I did. And the environmental thing was no different either. It's, you know, it's like town cleanups, which are good things. I'm not bashing anybody that does this kind of stuff, but then you got to promote it. You got to show everyone what you did. You got to have like an award ceremony, and you got to have walks, and there's awards, all this kind of stuff. Everything's incentivized because most people are interest-based. ENTPs don't like this kind of stuff because we have no sense of interest. ENTPs and INTPs were two types that are retarded in this sense, where in fact we still understand why people do things for different reasons. Because either you want to or you don't, you know, and that's kind of how it is. Or it's necessary, I should say, very kind of almost black and white when it comes to incentives and things like that. I understand I need to make money to pay rent so I have a place to live and so I can, you know, attribute to society. But I had never really had interest in material needs and things like that. What it really pointed out was the hypocrisy in this kind of stuff, and you see this in political, especially in the neo-lib area, was it's a not in my backyard mentality where you shut down industries and where you are, so you make your voters happy, but then you ship that industry over to China or you ship it down to Mexico where there is less restrictions on the air quality laws, and so the pollution actually increases just because it's going over borders. And in this case, you were seeing what people were calling new cleaner energy, and instead of burning coal, they were literally chopping down trees and burning trees, and so it literally is like not a substitution. And you really got into solar energy, and people how solar energy is presented, which my boyfriend uses solar panels, and I totally respect that. I think it's really cool. He doesn't even have an electric bill here in Texas. Solar energy is a great thing if you live in a sunny area, Florida or Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, even California for that matter, Nevada, you know, Utah, those kind of states right there, completely a good source. But you got under the impression that solar energy is 100% clean. This is how it's presented. You know, this is how the sales pitch, but it's not true. You know, it's made out of quartz. You got literally blowing up mountains to get the quartz out, burning it with coal to get the heat, you know, and everything is dirty to make solar panels in the first place. And then depending on what quality you get, it could be range from 10 years to 30-year warranty, maybe 50 years max stretching it, so you got to redo it all over again. But you can't recycle it, so you need to have solar panels you just got to throw away. And so to me, that's not clean. That's literally just grandstanding, it's posturing, it's fake. It's fake environmentalism. The burning of trees instead of burning of coal. Fake environmentalism, okay? It's just about posturing. It's about when Chevy came out with the new electric car and they're plugged in, oh, what's charging this charger now? Well, this city's burning coal. Okay, that's not clean energy. That's literally the same thing. And then where do those batteries come from? You know, you literally have slave mines, I think in Kenya or Congo or whatever, of getting the cobalt to make the batteries out. So it's literally blood, you know, and slave labor building these electric batteries in the cars. And so everything is presented as, you know, a solution that has 100% effectiveness and there's no problems. You look at wind energy, you have issues of putting all these windmills that are an eyesore, they're ugly to look at, and they're killing bats and birds and other things that hit it, fly into it. You got issues with dams and water hydropower and blocking it off, and then you have, fish are not getting the proper minerals. The minerals are not returning to the oceans. You got the coral dying. You know, the waters are getting unhealthy in this kind of sense like that, because everything is in the cycle of, you know, transferring nutrition, minerals, and, you know, and everything is in different cycles. And so when you block that cycle, it's kind of just like the body, where if you block certain blood flow, your heart will have a heart attack. You know, even though the blockage wasn't there, it was somewhere else. That doesn't matter. Or the blockage would be somewhere else and you have a stroke. Same thing. And so what this documentary was, what Michael Moore says at the very end is he was saying that they've lost track and they're no longer environmentalists, and now they're in bed now with corporations that are presenting themselves as green, and that's furthest from the truth there is. And so that's what he's trying to do, because he's always trying to promote socialism and he hates capitalism, even though he's a fat ass. And so it's just like, it's like the crazy people who complain about fascism, but they're on their Apple phones, which, only capitalism would provide, and things like that. Now, that being said, yeah, and so the documentary was good. I recommend people watching it. It was a good documentary. And it just, you need to understand that this isn't a simple fix. And so when you watch politicians, you watch people, environmentalists and things like that, presenting easy fixes, Green New Deal, for instance, this is bullshit. They don't know what they're talking about, or they're just trying to fool you. The only solution would be a catastrophic, dramatic change in the way people live. There also needs to be less people. We have industrialized farming now, so the population has never been this high. Even in times where people were having 10, 15 kids, they didn't live that long, and so they were dying off because of lack of food. Lack of food kept the population lower. Okay, now people are having less children in Western areas, but the population is still growing because people are living longer, on average. And so that's where it comes down to. And as an ENTP, let me just be true about this. I don't think anything ever is going to change. And so that's why I don't really get involved in environmentalism in that kind of sense anymore. These organizations, because organizations just posturing, is just BS, and just I'm critical of them. That being said, do I think environmentalism is important? Most definitely. And have I been involved in environmentalism my entire adult life? Most definitely. I recycle, even though I know most of it doesn't get recycled. And there's been studies released about California, I think it was like 40% of the recycle actually happen, and then you have to realize that it requires energy to recycle in the first place. And so if you're recycling plastic, for instance, you got to melt it down, you got to use coal, you got to use all this part. So it's not like, oh, this stuff just goes back and somehow gets reused. A lot of work goes into it. And so that's how I feel about that. And so how can somebody, do this in a logical way, use glass products is what I always try to purchase glass. I try not to get plastic as much as possible. 8 cartons that are made out of cardboard are better than plastic, or styrofoam would be terrible, And so just be, aware of different things like that, little things you can do. Obviously recycle. If you can mulch at home, have your own little garden, we'd be a lot better for the planet to have your own garden and grow your own food that don't have these toxic chemicals and these pesticides from, industrialized farming and things like that. Obviously more plants, more trees is better for, air pollution and things like that, because plants absorb this, and, and greening the earth is important. But no, the other things like that, there are basic things you can do, but this documentary really just pointed out the truth. That's why he's getting so much backlash, because they are so incentivized in pushing this agenda. And you should read a book by a liberal person, Corey. She wrote Behind the Green Mask, which is a pretty good book, talking about the fraud that she dealt with in California. And she's a liberal Democrat. So it's just what it is. And it was a good documentary. People should watch it. Those are my thoughts on it.